I'm in both worlds all the time, so I can see both sides. Just like I've done red team and blue team, I can speak both sides. I'm in the purple. I'm a purple person. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Cybersecurity Mentors Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about SOC versus GRC. Which path should I take? Which one is the right one? Which one's easier? What about these things? Because this is kind of one of those topics that are happening, that are trending right now, that you can see people are asking the question, should I go this way or should I go that way? Which one pays better? Which one has different skills that I can obtain easier? And we're going to dive into it, first I'll say that is a good question, but it's not the only question. There are other questions that you need to ask about what you're trying to become. Right, Steve?
Yeah, I completely agree. You hear a lot of people trying to get into cyber and they think, hey, GRC is the easiest way in because they're not trying to go down the more technical route. Or there's others that are like, hey, I hate policy work. I hate dealing with documents and that stuff. So, yeah, I rather, do an investigation or do this or do that, which is more technical. But it really depends. So, yeah, I agree. I'm excited to talk about this topic. So, we'll start it off with don't pick the easier path, pick the path that fits your strengths. So, what would you say about that, John?
Yeah, I actually did a talk that was called Choose Your Own Adventure, How to Become a CISO or something like that. And as a CISO, in my opinion, you do need both sides, both paths need to cross at some point. A lot of CISOs come up the risk and compliance path. Mostly, I would say the majority come up the risk path, the GRC path. I came up the operational path. And we say SOC versus GRC, it's really the analyst type role versus the more technical role versus the more risk and compliance roles, right? I'm in both worlds all the time, so I can see both sides. Just like I've done red team and blue team, I can speak both sides. I'm in the purple. I'm a purple person, right? So that helps me to speak to this a lot of like what your strengths are. If you are choosing this just because you think one is easier initially, but you hate life once you get in there, what are your strengths? Are your strengths around technical? Do you like doing the technical? Really, it comes down to what you're passionate about and what you like doing, because what you like doing is going to help you continue to improve and want to improve. If you hate life, and let me just not take it from a hate. Let's say you couldn't write your way for a compliance standard out of a paper bag, or you couldn't write a policy to save your life, or you just would dread doing that because you are not skilled or haven't that affinity to doing that, then maybe that path is not a good option for you. Now, we talked about this in our school community about documentation and with our group coaching, like how important documentation is. So either side, you need to be good at documentation. But there's a strength here that you should evaluate where you lie. Now, if you love technical things and you have an affinity to do that, you like doing the technical things, you like being at the command line. If you hate, here's a good separator. If you hate the command line, which we have some of these people that hate, they're like, I hate the command line, then maybe the operational path is not a good path for you. It may be that thing like, hey, do I like typing it, using the command line and running Linux and Windows commands? And like, if you hate that, then I would say that's not your strength. So you should evaluate that and consider, well, yeah, maybe let me look at what skills I need matching to where I am and what strengths I have. Last thing I'll say, and then I'll pitch it back to you. there's a tool called a strengths finder. Now, it's not a strengths finder in the sense of are you technical or non-technical, but it can help you see, are you analytical? How are you with dealing with uncertainty and analyzing data to find things that stand out, right? Is that your mindset? Or are you very concise and organized and prepared, and you're good at taking information and putting that in a format that you can present it? And you need to do this on both sides, but especially on the policy GRC side, because you're taking compliance controls that you need to decipher and put that into actionable speak that we need to go do. And here's why. On the technical side, you need to be able to decipher technical controls or technical things and put that into speak of like, here's how we implement this. This is why we need to do this. This is the business risk. So it's just different strengths on each side.
Yeah, I would agree. I think just for our listeners, just to clarify, so if you end up going down the SOC role or the more technical role, you are someone who likes to investigate problems, and in this point, technical problems, you like to look through logs, look through alerts. You're asking what happened here? Why did this happen? Let's get to the root cause of the problem. Maybe you like working under pressure or you don't mind working under pressure and you like to use some security tools and just kind of add that technology to your arsenal and then kind of just following the breadcrumbs, right? From start to finish, trying to figure out what happened, who did it, why, and how can we prevent this from happening again. That is what, in my opinion, would be a good SOC technical individual to begin with. On the opposite side, you have the GRC side. So that is again more from a administrative standpoint, more working with stakeholders, communicating different um, to different teams, but also communicating the problem in a more high level sense, right? Not too technical, not too digging down to the nitty gritty, but just big picture kind of speak. You're able to write clearly, you're able to communicate clearly and understand the risk and how that risk affects the business, and then helping leadership or helping other individuals make the right decisions on what will help the organization as a whole. So you are thinking about things more of not just security and trying to stop the bleeding or stop the problem, but you're thinking about how can what we are doing now help us now but help us in the future, as well as helping with anything across the legal spectrum. You know, think about IT, legal, audit, privacy, anything around those lines. So it is definitely somebody a little bit more administrative. Yes, I like to, and John too. We like to joke around that it's boring, but that's because we came up the more technical SOC side of the house. But like John mentioned, if you are trying to climb the corporate ladder and move up within a security organization, like he said, most CISOs, not all, but most end up coming through the GRC route. So it might be something that maybe you don't start there, but your path will take you there. And then from there, it'll help you kind of move on. And it's something I'm not, too excited about myself, but I know that I want to be a CISO one day. So it's something I need to tackle and be more involved in and learn and be, more confident with. So if you are starting trying to get into cybersecurity, depending on your current background, especially if you are someone who's transitioning from previous work, a previous career into cyber, there might be areas that might be a little easier for you and, to get your foot in the door. So it's definitely stuff to consider.
Yep. That's great. Thank you. All right. Point number 2, don't just choose a job title, choose the skills you want to build. So their SOC and GRC are not just roles, they're paths generally, right? So if you're thinking about the path that you're going to climb, what which path is for you? Steve, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, well, we kind of talked a little bit about that, but I see it to be very, just to simplify it as simple as possibly can. If you are more technical, definitely go with the SOC route. If you are more administrative, more project management focus, go the GRC route. Now, with that being said, um, people kind of tend to think, oh, GRC will be easier because I don't have to be very technical. I don't have to know this. I don't have to know that. Well, that just means you're going to be a half-assed GRC professional, because a good GRC professional, and in my opinion, somebody who will be very successful, knows some of the technical aspects of it. Because how are you going to be responsible on determining if your organization is doing what they're supposed to be doing to stay compliant, if when they show you their evidence, it's like you have no idea what the heck they're showing you, or you can't speak to speak, or you can't really understand when they're telling you in a meeting, yes, John, we are doing this, and we are doing this by doing this XYZ, and having and using these tools, using these processes, doing this, whatever. And it's just like, shoot, just goes over your head. Because look, I've been in situations, not in my not in my current organization, but I've been in certain situations where organizations, it's like, dude, I'm trying to pass this audit. So even if it's just doing the bare minimum, they're gonna be like, yep, we're doing that, and tell them we are, and convince them we are, so we can move on. So, I mean, it can get a little tricky out there for sure. So if you don't really understand what you're asking, like what the question you're asking, if you don't really understand it from a technical standpoint, or if they try to, like, give you this little white lie that, oh yeah, we're doing encryption and we're using Tenable Nessus scanner to do it, and you don't understand the difference there, or you don't understand what tool is used for what, then you're going to believe it, right? Because you're assuming this individual who's technical knows what they're talking about. But if you can't validate it, then you're going to be the one in trouble. So you do need to know some technical in order to be a good, strong GRC professional. Flipping the switch here, if you are going to be, in my opinion, a good technical individual, you also need to understand some of the things that might be asked of you from a GRC standpoint in order to identify risk, or in order to stop the risk, or in order to, be compliant with an audit, or if you're trying to follow a framework, your organization is trying to follow a framework, you might have somebody who is not very technical coming to you from the GRC team telling you, hey, we need to do this because this is what it takes for us to be compliant. And you can be like, hold on, Joe Schmo, do you even know what the heck you're talking about? Because that's impossible. And then, you need to be able to defend yourself on both sides. So in order for you to be just a good, strong, successful professional, no matter what route you take, you need to know a little bit of both worlds.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. That's one of the things that I do a lot is that the um, translator of that's what the compliance folks can be very focused on what compliance says. This says we have to do X, but if they've never been in the technical role and they don't understand their world as that translator, well, I've been there, I've had that, I've done that, then they don't know exactly what they're talking about. They're just looking at the bullet point that says, well, you got to do this and not do that. Okay, well, this is what that means when you were to enable the thing that it says to enable, or when you were disable. And again, for me being a jack of all trades, and I do think this is the better way, if you can do both sides of, as many sides as you can get some experience in, honestly, because I've been in that role. I've been in their shoes. And whenever they say that, I'm actually an advocate for them. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do something, but I'm like, yes, the compliance thing says this, but really what it means is this. And this is also what the negative consequences are on the technical side. So I think being good to continue to be a cybersecurity professional, you should think about both sides of the house skills wise. It's easy to get caught in your lane, easy to stay in your lane, but your perspective is also narrow. Um, so I think that covers. I mean, skill wise, I'll just kind of go through the list, right, of skills that you are going to get better at in each tree or each path for an operational, right, log analysis, alert triage, incident response, threat detection, endpoint and network investigation, scripting, automation, technical troubleshooting, evidence gathering, right? Those are the technical SOC type skills. GRC, risk assessment, control mapping, understanding the control frameworks, audit, evidence collection. Hey, you got to show us that you did this control and have implemented it, making sure that you read it. That also adds some technical capability so you know what they gave you is legit. Policy development, vendor risk review, third party management, security questionnaires, compliance. I mentioned that earlier. Executive communication. So putting that in both sides, I think, but maybe a little bit more on the GRC side is the executive communication.
Yeah, I would also like to just clarify. I feel like maybe we're a little too negative with our GRC folks. No, listen, if GRC floats your boat, go forth and conquer, my friends. But one thing I will say is, if you are in the GRC world and if you are in the operational technical world, it takes both of your groups to work together to create a strong organization and a strong overall security team for sure. You know, don't look at it, hey, I'm on the SOC team and the enemy is the GRC team. Not at all. Now, listen, there's been situations where I would have loved to taken the person that was auditing us to the top floor of the building, open a window and kick them out of it. Trust me. But it really requires both groups to work together to make sure that you are both doing what you're supposed to be doing. You know, from the GRC side, making sure that the organization as a whole is following the regulations, being compliant. And on the operational side, you know, you are doing what you're supposed to do from a technical standpoint, whether that's with security tools, with processes, with procedures, you know, showing them that, hey, yeah, we are doing that. Here's my evidence, my proof. So it does require that both groups work together. So yeah, they're don't look at it as one against the other, and not at all. You both groups are required to have a successful security team and a secure organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Last point, choosing your path based off of your 5-year plan or a plan, not just what your first job is going to be. Because if you really want to do GRC, but you're choosing the SOC route because you think that's going to be easier, then it's going to be, yes, your foot is in the door, but your next logical step is another SOC type position, not bounce over to GRC. So that's why you need to consider which one you like, which one you favor, which one you think you want to be, you want to make your 5-year plan or a longer term option. Choose the path that you want to go through, right? Did you have a point there?
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. You know, I completely agree with you, John. Definitely everyone should have, hey, this is my 5-year plan, at least. This is what I would like for my professional career to look like in 5 years. This is the route I want to take. And yes, if you see yourself and, you know, maybe not ending, but moving into the GRC side, and the only reason you are even giving the technical any attention is because you see there's a lot more SOC jobs out there than GRC jobs, and you think that's the way you're going to get your foot in the door. Yes, potentially, but that's a lot of work to do to get your foot in the door just to end up in GRC. But I get where people are making these decisions, because right now the market's not doing great. You know, it's very difficult. It's there's a lot of competition and there's a lot of individuals, and we've talked to a lot of them that are like, listen, I don't care. I just want to get my foot in the door. I don't care how I do it, whether it's general IT, whether it's working in the NOC and the help desk, whether it's cybersecurity, whether it's GRC. It does not matter. I just want to get my foot in the door and get a job. I get that. I get where you're coming from. And sometimes you do have to make those sacrifices, but do it in a way where you're not veering too far off your 5-year lane, um, and like you're not veering too far off, so you're not wasting too much time and too much effort to then have to leap back to where you actually want to be. Um, that's kind of all I was gonna add
Yeah.
to that point.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if you want to be CISO, here's what I would recommend. And not everybody wants to be CISO, but if you want to be CISO, if you go the route like I went up the technical route, weave in more GRC along the way. Now I was like, garlic with vampires and a cross against GRC when I was coming up the technical route. I was like, just stay away, right? Now I wish I had not. I wish I had been more involved with those frameworks and involved with the risk side so that when I got to where I was, I didn't have to just not start from zero, but really focus on building those skills and build out the understanding and build those things. If you'd weaved it in along the way, same thing with GRC. If you wanted to be that and mostly do that, and that's what you love, weave in the technical. Don't just be all risk and be all compliance. My opinion, either way, that's going to make you better, just like Steve said earlier. But weave that in so that when you get to that level, you can speak both sides, you understand both sides. You may not be an expert in one or the other. I'm not an expert in compliance. I am not, and I'll tell people that. I'm an expert in security and technical ability. But I also understand both. I do both. I have to do both, and you have to. There's no way around it. You have to, especially as a CISO. So that would be my recommendation. That's part of my whole talk, the choose your own adventure. In my opinion, it is good to do both. But as far as starting out, pick something that you are passionate about, pick something that you love. So when you land in that role, you're not regretting it. You're not wishing, man, this sucks. I don't like this. And pick something based off of your strengths.
All right. So just one thing I wanted to add to kind of help people if they are trying to figure out which route to take, and that is, if you're a person with help desk, some help desk skills, right? If you decided to go up the help desk route, again, just trying to get your foot in the door and just general IT to then jump over to cyber. If you've done some help desk work, if you've done some networking, if you've done some system admin, that would naturally gravitate you towards the SOC, towards SOC work. But you could also do GRC work. And actually, if you end up going to the GRC route, you already have some technical experience under your belt that can help you be a strong GRC candidate. Now, if you have some project management, if you have some audits and compliance, some teaching, even some military leadership experience or just business operations like running a store, managerial stuff, you would be a great fit for general GRC work. Um, but again, that's just to give you an idea of kind of where you're coming from and where you want to go. Also, taking into consideration a lot of those people that are transitioning from previous work, previous careers into cyber. Those are just a few that we mentioned. There's definitely a lot more. And if you would like to sit down and talk to us in more detail, join our school community. Join us on one of our Friday hangouts or try and set up a one-on-one time with us. We'd be happy to talk to you about this in more detail, give you some advice on where you should go, how you should do it. But I think that is it for today, unless you got anything else, John.
No, this is good. I get it. I get why people are looking at both of these with the job market right now. But I do think, we covered the points of things to consider. So thanks everybody for listening. I hope it's helpful. If you have comments or feedback, we're always open to hear it. Have a good one.